Nobody wants to be miserable. Everybody wants to be happy. I could go on. Let me round up this argument with one last point in this context, that is our desire to live. Nobody wishes to die. Somebody is really old. He's been admitted in the hospital. He is in really bad shape. His leg is hanging from the roof. He cannot visit the restroom. There is a bedpan there. He cannot eat. There's a tube going into his mouth. That person also says, "Doctor, I hope I will not die. I hope you'll save me." So this urge to live is natural to all of us. It's natural to all living beings. A cat is such a peaceful creature. Try cornering a cat. When it experiences a danger to its life, it will not care for your size. It will pounce on your throat. It values its life as much as all of us do. Why is this urge to live natural to the soul? The science of spirituality teaches us that God is eternal. He is immortal, without beginning and without end. Never was there a time when God did not exist. Never will there be a time when He will cease to exist. Because we are tiny parts of the immortal, eternal God, we too have this desire for immortality. And in fact, the soul is eternal. But under this illusion, under this misconception that we are the body, we are repeatedly experiencing the phenomenon of death, which is going against the nature of the soul. Hence, this revulsion for death and love for life. So, these two assumptions of spirituality answer such vast amounts of knowledge. Further, the science of spirituality says that you don't have to keep on making assumptions. We also respect the scientific process. We also respect logical thinking. What is the reason why that the respect for logic and its laws is universal? Because this logic stems from the rationality of God. And that is why we all naturally understand something to be logical and something to be illogical. So spirituality does not say that you just keep making illogical, irrational assumptions all the way. Just like science made some basic assumptions and then moved ahead in a rational manner, spirituality does the same. It says, now follow the scientific process. We will tell you, you do this, and you will start experiencing the purification of your mind. All those things about mind management and positive thinking that you desired and you endeavored for through those multiple self-help books that are in such multitudes in the market, but you could never implement them practically. You follow the laws of spirituality and you will start experiencing that purification from lust, anger, greed, envy, hatred. Those things that are propounded will come into your experience. The nature of the soul will come into your experience. Right now you know in theory, then you will know in realization. And they all tell us that you will ultimately know and see the absolute truth. The Bible said, "Blessed are those who are pure at heart, for they shall see God." The Bhagavad Gita states, "Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tatvatah tato mam tatvato gyatva vishate tadanantaram." He says, Arjun, by exclusive, unalloyed, pure devotion, you will be able to see God standing before you, and you shall enter into his being. So, if when we believe in this, accept this field of spirituality, we don't forsake the scientific process. We follow the same hypothesis, experimentation, verification, proof, and theorem. In fact, the Vedas say that there is absolutely no need to contradict or to have any acrimony between science and spirituality. They are both bona fide, genuine branches of human knowledge. The Munduko-Upnishad states, Dve vidye veditavye parachaiva paracha tatra para rigvedo yajurvedah samaveda atharvangiras itihas puranah shiksha kalpo vyakranam niruktam chando jyotishamiti para yaya tadaksharam adhigamyate. It states that there are two branches of knowledge, basically classified. One is material knowledge or avidya. One is spiritual knowledge or vidya. Both these branches of knowledge are necessary in life, and you will need to cultivate both these to reach your goal. Material knowledge is necessary to understand external nature, to harness its forces, to meet the needs of your body, and provide your body with the necessities to go on in your journey for life, to give your body the proteins, the vitamins, the carbohydrates, the minerals that it needs. For this purpose, you will need material science. And spiritual science has its own place. Spiritual science is necessary for the purification of your inner self, the mind, the intellect, and for the manifestation of the inherent divinity within you. If a spiritual practitioner says material science is useless, you are the soul, not the body, forget about all these material pursuits, just be situated in yourself, well, that is an incomplete viewpoint. Because even to practice spirituality, we need to take care of this body. If the body is not functioning properly, we cannot even sit and hear and talk about spirituality. There's a beautiful story related to the Buddha. This is before his enlightenment. He was sitting in the city of Gaya, in the state of Bihar, under a tree, giving up eating and drinking, sitting in meditation. Many days went by, and he experienced weakness, which was natural because he had stopped eating and drinking. So his head became dizzy and started spinning. All his meditation finished. Some village women were passing by to fill water in their earthen pots. They were singing a song. The lines of the song were, "Tighten the strings of the tanpura." The tanpura is an Indian musical instrument. The strings are tightened to create proper sound. So they were singing, tighten the strings of the tanpura, but don't tighten them so much that the strings break. Now these words fell into the ears of the Buddha. He was amazed. He said, these illiterate village women are singing words of such amazing wisdom. Perform austerities, tighten the body, but not to the extent that the body is destroyed. Shariramadhyam khalu dharma sadhanam. In your journey through life, this body is your vehicle. And just like you take time out to maintain your car, you do need to take time out and make the maintenance of your body a priority, in accordance with the age-old saying, health is wealth. So, material science has its relevance in taking care of this gross body. However, if a materialist decries spirituality as a waste of time and mumbo jumbo, that these spiritualists come and try and indoctrinate within us, that has no logical basis or practical relevance, that is also an incomplete viewpoint. Without taking resource to spirituality, how will we develop those divine virtues and qualities that all of us have the natural urge to acquire? Material science doesn't have the answer to this. Study all the branches of material science taught in all the great universities of the world. Find out, is there a subject teaching the student how to purify the mind and the intellect through material science? Again, I quote Einstein. He said, science has succeeded in denaturing the plutonium atom. But science cannot denature the evil in man's hearts. Science does not possess any technology to destroy evil propensities. So there is no need to contradict science and spirituality. Spirituality is that body of knowledge that is giving us these tools and technology which helps us purify our mind and intellect to lead a pure, successful, noble, and divine life. So, based on this perspective, both these branches of knowledge have a relevance to us in our life and in our journey to the goal. We need material science to take care of the body and spiritual science to nourish the body, the mind and intellect, and ultimately the soul. So this is how we can converge both these branches of human knowledge, which is science and spirituality. Thank you all.
Swamiji, thank you for that lecture. That was really, really inspiring. You mentioned that the Creator is, he's the most rational and the most intellectual being. So why did he first of all get this desire to create all this, and why did that desire why did that desire include the fact that parts of him would be here and not realize that they are part of him?
Well, that's a very bona fide and natural question that arises on hearing this, that why has the Creator decided to create us? One very appealing answer to this question that makes a lot of sense to me, I would like to share with you all. It's a small little story. There was once a billionaire. You can sit back. There was once a billionaire. He had one son who was 15 years old. One day the son was in his father's office scavenging around. The father was out of the office when he discovered a 15-year-old newspaper. He saw the article on it, and the lines were, "Billionaire adopts orphan child." He was astonished. He read it more carefully, and his father's name was there. So he came to know that he is not really his father's child. When his father returned, he accosted him with that newspaper and said, "Father, is this article right?" His father was downfallen. He said, "Yes, my son, this is right." "What does that mean, father? I am not your real son." He said, "No, I have adopted you." The son was heartbroken. He said, "Father, why did you adopt me?" Father said, "My son, I am a billionaire. I have no shortage of money. And I have everything that money can buy. However, I did not have anybody with whom I could share my wealth. I adopted you so that I may be able to give you everything that I have. That will give me far more pleasure than merely possessing this." Similarly, God is perfect and complete in everything that He owns. However, when He gives it to us, His children, He experiences a far greater joy. So the reason He has created us is that He may be able to one day give to all of us all His unlimited divine knowledge, His divine love, and His divine bliss. But in His grand design and scheme of things, He wants us to work our way to perfection. So the Eastern philosophies, they all say this march towards perfection is continued over multiple lifetimes. And we take on from where we left last time. And in this grand scheme of things, we are all going towards that ultimate perfection.
Cause and effect. Ever from cause and effect, and you can come to some definite conclusion. The cause and effect, if actually gives you most probable what will happen, okay, it's never deterministic. It's probabilistic. So, in one way, the world, the way we explain it, is the probabilistic. What's the most probable cause will cause the most probable effect. That's the proper explanation. Second thing is that the world is also random. So purely random events can lead to a result which looks like as if it was designed. Okay? So we, as human beings with our limitation, sometimes see the result, but don't see how it all happened. And we sometimes associate that all that happened because of that almighty great God. So you got to consider that as science does not say it's not deterministic anymore, it's probabilistic, and we do accept that it's also random. And randomness can create amazing results.
Well, firstly, the point you said between the chain of cause and effect. You said that the cause could lead to that effect, but there's an element of randomness in it. I would say that randomness exists because we don't know the cause perfectly. If we know the causes perfectly, then there is no randomness. Right? So the knowledge that we have in our present levels, because it is incomplete, we think it is random. Secondly, you said that all is random. That is an assumption. That you are making an assumption. You have the full right to make that assumption. But I am presenting you a different viewpoint on this assumption that all is not random, all is rational, all is logical, and all makes sense. So I have presented you a viewpoint. Now you are familiar with a particular viewpoint. That is your choice. You have to choose between these two different viewpoints. Right? There is no need to contradict or to conflict. That freedom of choice is given by God Himself.
You said that a person who says that there's no God has to prove it, and a person who only knows everything about everything can prove and say that there's no God. But I'm inclined to believe the person who's asserting the existence of something, the burden is on him to prove it. If you are saying there is God, you have to prove it. You have to prove its existence. It's not on me. You can't say there is God. Now prove that there is no God. You can't assert the existence of something and ask the other person to prove it. I'm just throwing my thought out there. So what do you have to say to that?
All right. You have said that I am asserting the existence of God, and hence the burden is on me to prove it. I am turning the argument around on scientists. You are assuming the non-existence of God. Can you prove the non-existence of God? Well, that is a matter of viewpoint. I would like to believe that science is firmly grounded on this fact that there is no God, and all the scientific theories have presented this. So, I would like to say that why don't we prove the non-existence of God? Right? So that was my point of view, that if we are assuming that there is no God, if you feel comfortable in this assumption, there is no God, without any proof of the fact, I feel comfortable in the assumption that there is a God. And I explained through various instances that things are not created by themselves. So that is why I made that one little leap there, that when things require a maker, the whole creation requires a maker. And what I wish to state is that there are assumptions either way. I am not saying that your assumption is wrong or right. I am saying you have made a leap of faith in science. There is a leap of faith here. Based on that faith, you are proceeding ahead. For example, all the Big Bang theory, etc., there is no mention of God there. So I am saying that once you make this assumption, you come up with so many answers and so many explanations. Again, I'm not forcing anybody to believe. I'm just saying that here's one body of knowledge, take a look at it. If this assumption makes sense to you, you move ahead in that direction.
Few years, Richard Dawkins has been challenging predominantly the Christian tradition, but this whole theory, this whole thing of a creator behind the complex creation that we are as living organisms. Then his fundamental question that he throws back in a logical challenge is, if it is so complicated to create something as simple as a living human being, who then created the creator who has infinitely more complications and a much more complicated this is a classic question that Dawkins is throwing out to religionists.
That's right. That's a natural question. If God has created the world, who has created God? Sorry. He says we've created God. That's what Karl Marx also said. God is the opiate of the masses. Sigmund Freud said the same. He said that man created God in the image of man and said that God created man in the image of God. Well, this is all different viewpoints. But his question is that, as presented, as he's put forward Richard Dawkins' question, that who has created God? So if we go back to Hegel's logic, the cause and effect chain, either the chain goes till minus infinity, which doesn't make sense. Things have to have a beginning in our present framework of thinking. So if it has a beginning, you have a causeless first cause even there. In other words, you have a cause which has caused everything else, but it is not the effect of any preceding cause. So the definition of God is exactly that. He is the causeless first cause. That is why he said, Ishwar Sarva Karana Karanam. In other words, he has always existed, but he does not have a creator. If he did, then that personality would become God. Then you would ask who created him.
Swamiji, thank you very much for excellent talk. I have a question. You mentioned two branches. One is called the materialistic science and the other is the spiritual science. to coexist for the humankind. My question to you is, over centuries, why the spiritual knowledge has increased in the Eastern world while the material science in the Western world? Why?
Well, that could be a part of the grand design. The Creator knows that both these branches are necessary. And He has nourished and cultured these two aspects of knowledge in two different parts of the globe. So while the Western world is naturally inclined to materialism, the Eastern world is naturally inclined to spirituality. And that has led to this cultivation of spirituality. The topic of philosophy, I could discuss it to ends. In India, to an ordinary person sitting on the footpath, their natural inclination towards philosophy is there. But that could be a part of the grand scheme of things that the Creator realized, and it's possible that He may in future bring it together, which would form the perfect combination. That is what Swami Vivekananda realized when he came to the West, and he saw the pursuit of excellence that takes place in the West, in the materialistic field, and the extent of dedication and the extent of hard work and application. He realized that these qualities are missing in the East, and the East has its own specialities. So he said perfection would be to have the best of both and not reject either of them.
Pleasure to be here. I find myself struggling with the way to ask this question correctly or accurately. What is happening when we find ourselves consistently in the space of seeing things from a perspective where we're no longer prisoner of it? I find that it's very difficult.
Okay. Well, there are levels of consciousness. For example, that the consciousness of souls that are tied to the plant species, and that's very gross. The intellect is not functioning, the mind is not functioning, only the senses are functioning. There is the consciousness of the souls tied to the bodies of animals. That's a higher level, where the intellect is totally clouded, but the mind and senses are fine. And there's the intellect in the human form, where we have, the consciousness in the human bodies, where the intellect is also free to soar. But even in that, there are stages of evolution of consciousness. And as we go in this path of self-realization, self-awareness, it's a journey that goes inside. And we situate ourselves on higher levels. Then we have these perspectives. Okay, so there are different kinds of perspectives based on different levels. It's a huge field, as vast as science, and it's difficult to explain it in short. But that's a natural experience when you go on the spiritual path, that you have a totally different perspective of what's going on, what is happening, a more detached perspective, a more enlightened perspective. And that's where all these defects, frailties, anger, greed, they all naturally start falling off. So that is the enlightenment that the mystics around the world have talked about. But the catch would be how to maintain that, how to sustain that state. So that requires understanding spiritual science and practicing it on a daily basis.
Amazing talk. Thank you. I thought I would wait till the end of this talk to ask this question, but I thought some other people might benefit as well to hear it. I've had a very long week. Today's September 30th. It's the end of this third part of the year, and I'm a little stressed. But coming here, I feel a lot better. I'm thinking, are there any things you could maybe apply or help us do to apply to our daily lives? People here all go to school, a busy school, and work in Silicon Valley. We're all very stressed and busy. But it's just maybe a few things we could all just take home from this to apply to our lives to help.
Good. That's a very practical, relevant question. That's the difference I find. When I come from India to preach in America, people say, what is there in it for me? Forget about all this philosophy. What is there in it for me? So, it's very important. Well, My suggestion or advice to all of you in the practical aspect would be to make some time in your daily schedule for this. Just like an intelligent person, people in the modern world and educated societies, they take time out for exercise because they know it is necessary for the maintenance of health. All day long, you're going to be working in the office, sedentary work. If you don't take care of your health, it starts deteriorating. So they build half an hour or 1 hour in their daily schedule for maintaining physical health. I would like to say that make some time for yourself for your own spiritual health. If you start doing just this much every day, the results will be perceived by you very shortly. In that time, whether it is half an hour or 1 hour, you first of all start by hearing. This hearing is how you acquire knowledge in Stanford. And hearing has been respected as a great process for receiving knowledge in the field of spirituality. So hear this knowledge from sources that you find inspiring. Read about it, that's another form of hearing. And when you read and hear, the natural consequence will be that you will start contemplating about it. And when you start contemplating, that knowledge will naturally start becoming practical. The things that you have heard, they will come into you. You will start translating them into practice. So read here. You have heard this talk on a Friday evening. Now contemplate over it on Saturday and Sunday. That's important, because if we just hear it and do not think about it, it goes in from here and goes out from there. So this is recognized as the second stage of knowledge. It is called mananam. The first is shravan here. Second is manan, contemplation. And the third is nididhyasana, the third stage of knowledge. That is to decide with the intellect. This is it. That decision, when it takes place, you will very easily attain that spiritual state. That decision of the intellect is very important. That could be coined as faith. This faith is a very big word. Our lives are forged by the faith that we keep. We don't realize it. But the faith, you have faith that money is important in life, and hence you are studying here so much. You have faith that this degree can help you attain your goal in life. So without realizing it, our faith is what forges our destiny and the direction of our life. If we can develop faith on these eternal principles, immediately our life will start shining in the proper direction. So that is the third stage of knowledge. There is so much more that could be said about it. If any of you wishes to practice meditation, you will find it an amazing self-transformational tool. Actually, I conduct workshops on yoga and meditation, but that's not a part of our program today. But you can definitely try this out.